So if I'm adding sepal length and sepal width columns and storing the result in new column, and it is corresponding to DF1, it is not corresponding to your DF. So you can see that this your DF1 consists of the 6 columns: sepal length, sepal width, petal width, species, and the new. Now we can drop this new column. We can drop this new column from this DF. If you want to drop this new column, so we'll say df1 is equals to whatever we have executed here. I'll drop this column from here. And after dropping this, you can see there are 5 columns only: sepal length, sepal width, petal width, and species. Now we have dropped this column from df1, but df, let's see what is the content of df. Df still consists of your new column. Df still consists of new column. That means whatever operation it is doing, it is creating a reference. Okay, it is not making the changes in the original one. So if you want the changes to be reflected in the original file, then you will have to make use of special attribute called as in place attribute. So what we'll be doing is we'll be using df.drop. What you want to drop is new, okay, and as it's a column, so you have to mention access is equals to 1, and then you have to make use of in place is equals to true. In place is equals to true means it will be making the changes in the original file, in the original data frame, which is your df. And then after that, if you will print this df, so you can see here there are only 5 columns here. The df, the new column is dropped here from the original one. So whenever you want the changes to be reflected in the original data frame, then you have to make use of this in place is equals to true. Now let's say if I want to drop a specific rows, so I can do that df1 is equals to, let's say, df dot drop. I want to drop only the single row for timing, let's say 0. Okay. And then I'll print this df1. So you can see that the values are starting from 1 now. Okay. Previously, there was row number 0 also present, but right now there is no row number 0. It has dropped that row. Okay. It has dropped that row and it is being stored in the df1. Okay. But let's see what are the, whether your df1 is still the same or not. So if you will say print df, your df still consists of 0 to all 149. That means all 150 rows. It is not reflecting the original df data frame. Okay. Now, if you want to drop multiple rows from the data frame instead of a single one, so you will be using df1 is equals to df dot drop, and here I'll be mentioning 1 comma 2. Okay, I'm not mentioning 0 here, so you just see what is going to happen here. So I'll be printing this df1 and execute. So you can see that the 0 has appeared over here. So that means whenever you are executing again, so the previous one is gone. So if you want the changes to be reflected in the main data frame, for that you have to make use of in place attribute and make it set its value as true. So let's say if I want to drop these rows directly from the main data frame df, so I'll be saying df dot drop. Okay, and let's say I want to drop the rows 0, 1, and 2. And after that, if you'll print this, So if you'll be using in place is equals to true, then those particular rows are being dropped from the original data frame itself. So you can see there are 147 rows. Previously there were 150. Now if you are making use of in place is equals to true, so it is dropping the rows from the main data frame itself. Now if you want to access a specific row with the help of the index name, so you will be using df.loc, and let's say if I want to access the row with the index as 5, so I'll be saying df.log 5, so it will give you the information only about that specific row. It will give you the information about only that specific row. Now let's say in this case the indexes are nothing but the numbers itself. In this case, the indexes for the rows are number. You can see here 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 145, 146, and so on. So instead of numbers, had it been some another string, so that you could have used over here. And instead of, let's say, you don't know that what is the name of that particular index, and you want to delete the specific row by index number. So here that you can do with the help of ilog. Mention this 5. So still it will give you this df.log of I is the same thing. So I stands for the integer value it will correspond. So if you can see here, this example here you have the index numbers are 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So if you want to view the contents of a specific row, so that you can do with the help of df.log of 5. Okay, so it will refer the what is the name of this index. It is 5 over here. But if I'm mentioning here ilog of 2, so it will go with the offset. So see offset number 0, then 1, and then 2. And then when I'm saying ilog of 2, it is referring to this third entry over here. It is not referring the name of that index. It is referring directly from the offset. And offset is beginning from 0. Now let's say I want to read the first 5 rows, so I can use df.ilog, or let's say from 2 to some specific 7. So this is the entry number 2 in your data frame, then 3, 4, 5, 6. So this is basically if you want to retrieve the subset of some subset of the actual data frame. So this you can do with the help of mentioning the indices. So this I is basically for the integer. And if you want to access a specific element, okay, specific element from the data frame, okay, not a specific row, not a specific column, but a specific element. So you have to mention the index number and the indexing of the column as well. So let's say df.loc. Let's say if I want to retrieve in this row number 4 or the index number 4 and the value of the sepal length. So what is the value in this data frame for row number as 4 and the sepal length as column as sepal length? So you can see that value is 5. So basically you have to mention like the way you access the elements of the matrix or the array, two-dimensional array, same way you have to mention the index of the row and the index of the column. So it will give you the element at that specific row and column, or the intersection of row and column. If you want to access some specific rows and specific columns only, that means, or to be more precise, a subset of rows and columns. So that you can do here, df.log, let's say from 2 to 6 rows, and columns I want for sepal length. Okay, I want one more, which is, let's say, petal length, I'll say. So you will be getting the entries only for those specific. Right from second, because row number 2 is, index number 2 is not existing. We have dropped it from the main data frame. So that's why it is not showing here. It is directly starting from 3. Okay, if you'll put here 3, then you will get the same one. So from index number 3 till this 6, we want only the sepal length and the petal length. So here you have to mention the indexing of the rows, and here the indexing of the column that you are interested to retrieve. Let's say from this also you want to extract the some values from the sepal length which are greater than some specific value. So if I want to find out only the rows from the sepal length whose value is greater than 7, or let's see, the instead of 7, let me make it 5 here. So if you see this here, what you're getting in the output is you are getting false, false, true, and false. So basically what it is giving you, it's a Boolean output. So wherever the value of the sepal length for that specific index is greater than 5, it is returning true. If it is not, it is returning false over here. So if you want the contents of the data frame, okay, the values of all the columns, such that the value of the sepal length is greater than 5. So what you will be doing is you have to put this in this df. So the content of this, okay, so wherever it would be true, it would be extracting only those specific rows from the data frame. df of sepal length greater than 5. So wherever it would be true, only for those specific rows, it will give you the output. So you can see here, in none of the sepal length, its value is less than 5. All the values are greater than 5. So it is extracting all the rows wherever the value of sepal length is greater than 5. Is this part clear till everyone? Is this clear to everyone till this point? Is it clear? Okay, thank you. Now in this example, what we have done is we are extracting the values of all the column indices where the value of sepal length is greater than 5. Okay, so it is giving you the information of sepal width, petal width, and species also. But what if you are interested only in one of the specific attributes of the column? So let's say if I want the sepal width only, I want the sepal width of all the instances of all the rows where the value of sepal length is greater than 5. So what you need to do is, so after this, you will be mentioning the column name that you are interested in. So let's say sepal width. So it is giving you only the information about the sepal width in such a way that all the rows are having the value of sepal length greater than 5. But what if instead of this sepal width, you want some another information, let's say petal width as well. So instead of this sepal width, you want one more value, let's say petal width. So this you have to include in a list, petal length. So it is giving you the information of all the rows from the data frame where the value of sepal length is greater than 5. And which columns it is giving you? It is giving you the information about the sepal width and the petal length only. If it's a single column, you don't have to mention it as a list, okay? When there are more than one, so again you have to mention it as a list of values here. Let's say you want to put the condition on more than one attributes. Can we change the value of sepal length? Yes, you can change the value of sepal length, but if you want that value to be reflected in the original, then you have to make use of in place is equals to true. So it's always better you make a copy first and then work on the data frame so that the original data frame should not get affected. You can change the value of sepal length just the way you are using x of 3 is equals to 5. So in the array x at third index, the value would be 5. So this can be done here. But it's always suggested that you do not make any changes in the original data frame in case if you want to refer it in future ahead. So it's always better you make a copy of it first and then work with the data frame, copy of the data frame rather than working with the original data frame. So now let's say here what we have seen in the this example, we were getting the details of the rows in which the value of sepal length is greater than 5. Sepal length is greater than 5. Now let's say if I want to put one more condition that the petal length should be greater than 5. Instead of this only sepal length greater than 5, I want to put one more condition that the petal length should be also greater than 5. So that means you will be combining the two conditions. I'll just take. So if you want to combine more than one condition, you have to put here round brackets and then you will be using and single ampersand, okay, and then again make use of within this df what we want is petal length. This petal length should be greater than 5. So what we are interested in, we are interested in all the rows in which the values of sepal length and petal length both are greater than 5. So you can see here in this column, the sepal length column and the petal length column, all the values are greater than 5. So you can combine more than one conditions with the help of AND, which is single ampersand you will be using. If you want to make use of OR, you have to use a vertical stroke, single vertical stroke. And here you have to compulsorily mention this round bracket. So if you're not mentioning the round brackets, it causes an error. So each and every condition has to be enclosed in a round bracket. So after this, we'll see some statistical analysis that we can work with the data frame, like what is the minimum value, what's the maximum sum of a specific column, what is the standard deviation, so that we can do it with the help of different methods which are already there. So let's say you want to find out the minimum value from specific column, let's say sepal length. So I'll say df of sepal underscore length, okay, We want to find out the minimum from this column. So the minimum value in this sepal length column is 4.3. Now, instead of 1, if you want to find out the minimum value from more than one columns, then you have to include them in the list, in the form of a list here. So let's say I want to find out the minimum of sepal length as well as petal length. So we want to find out the minimum of sepal length and the minimum from petal length column as well. But this you have to include again as a list. For this codes over here. Yeah, now it's coming. You can same way determine the standard deviation or the maximum. So let's say if you want to find out the standard deviation of these two columns, so the method is STD. Instead of this min here, min is for the minimum. Standard deviation of sepal length column is this 0.82, and for the petal length it is this. Same way you can determine the maximum value. So the maximum value from the sepal length is 7.9 and the maximum from the petal length is 6.9. You can determine the mean as well in the same way. So the mean values of sepal length column is 5.86 and the mean value of petal length column is 3.80. You can find out the sum also, sum of all the values. So you have to mention sum method. So the sum of all the values of sepal length column is 861.8 and sum of all the values of petal length column is 559.7. Then there is a method called as a describe method. Okay, this will give you all the statistical information about your data frame, sepal length, sepal width, petal length, and petal width. So count is what? The number of rows in that sepal length column. There are 147 rows. Under sepal width column also there are 147 rows. Same way for the petal length and petal width. Then comes the mean value, that is mean of all the values from the sepal length column, sepal width, petal length, and petal width, standard deviation, minimum, maximum. And here you can see 25%, 50%, and 75%. So this 25% is giving you what here? These many values are 25% of the original values are less than or equal to 5.1. 25% values or the rows of the original sepal length column are less than or equals to 5.1. 50% indicates what here? These 50% of the rows are below or equal to 5.8, and this is the value for 75%. So that means these are the number of rows which are less than or equal to 6.4. 75% of these are the values. So it's as good as saying that there are certain number of students with 35 marks, or you can say that 50 marks and 60 marks. Then you can make use of the groups also. You can group the rows based on a specific column. So let's say groups is equals to df dot group by. Okay, you want to group based on some attribute, let's say species. After this, if you will print this groups, so it is saying that it's an object. So you can group the rows of the data frame. You have to mention that based on which column index you want to group them. So we want to group them based on the species attribute. And then if you want to determine what is the name of each species and what is the maximum value of sepal length under each species, you want to determine what is the name of the species and what is the maximum value of sepal length in that specific species. So to do this, you have to use the for loop for name, comma, group in groups. For name, comma, group in groups, we want to print the names. Okay, we want to print the name, and then after this, we want to print what? The maximum value of the sepal length from that group. We want to print a maximum value of sepal length, the value of maximum value of the sepal length from that group. So you will be writing group. We want the maximum sepal length. So sepal underscore length, its maximum value you want to determine. So dot max. So this is the output here. So there are three groups basically under the species. One is Setosa, next one is versicolor, and the third one is Virginica. So under Setosa group, the maximum value of the sepal length column is 5.8. The maximum value of the versicolor under this versicolor group, the maximum value of sepal length is 7.0, and under this Virginica group, the maximum value of the sepal length is 7.9. So it's basically, it's as good as saying that what is the maximum marks from each class, like SECOMS, ICIT, SC, EXTC. So you can say here, print the name of the student and then group based on the column, based on the class name. Now let's say only for one specific species, one specific group only you want to display all the information. Okay, let's say for one specific species, you want, we want to get the information only for the Setosa group. Okay, and then we want to find out what is the maximum value of each column under this. So for the group Setosa, the maximum value of sepal length is 5.8, maximum value of sepal width is 4.4. Same way for the rest all, it is giving you the maximum value under that Setosa group, the maximum value of each column under the Setosa group. But let's say instead of all these, you are interested only in some specific column, not all the columns, then you have to mention the name of the columns. So let's say if I want to find out the maximum of only the petal length from that Setosa group. So here you'll be mentioning petal length. So you can see that its value is 1.9. The same is over here. Petal length is 1.9. That means if you want to extract only some specific column group, so that you will do with the help of this. For all the columns, you don't have to mention the column index over here. If you are interested only in specific column, to mention the name of the column here. If you want to find out the mean of each group, so then group dot mean. So for each group, it is giving you the name of sepal width, petal length, and petal width. So this is giving you the for the sector, the origin. In forgot to put the S here was referring to the last group, which was Setosa over here. And if you want to determine the way we have seen the statistical information for different columns, so you can the same statistical information can be viewed for the groups as well. So groups dot describe. So this information is not clearly readable. So what you can do is you can take the transpose of this. So if you'll see here, under the species of Setosa, the sepal length count is 47, versicolor is 50, virginica is 50. So in all, there are 147 rows and 47 under Setosa, 50 under versicolor, and under virginica there are 50 rows. The mean is this value, same with standard deviation, mean 25%, 50%, 75%, and the max. So it is giving you for each group. So it is giving you the statistical information for the each group. See the difference here when you have not taken the transpose and the transpose, the values are rows and columns are interchanged. So if you say here first is 47, next is 5.0127, 0.36, 4.3. So those values which are in the form of row here, those values have appeared in the form of a column here. 47, 5.0, 0.36. That information is not clearly readable here. So this you can do with the help of this transpose if you want to see, analyze the statistical information clearly. Then you can make use of your own function. You can apply some operations on the data frame. Let's say we want to determine the square root of some specific column. So you will be saying data is equals to df of petal length. Okay, and you want to determine the root. So we are mentioning the name of the method. For this, we have to define that method as well. So define root. Okay, you have to define root and pass this x as a parameter to this. What it is going to return is it will be returning x power 0.5. So it is returning the square root of that whatever value x is being passed to it. So what we are doing in this statement is from the data frame for the petal length, we are applying the root method. We are applying the root method to each and every value of this petal length column, and that we are displaying here. So print data. So when you're printing data, it is giving you the square root of the petal length, whatever was there in the petal length column. Instead of reflecting now, you can see that these values are reflected under the petal length column itself. But you want to assign some new column for that, so you have to make use of another column name. So let's first copy paste this. And then I do not want this as a data column. I want it in the same data frame, but with some new attribute to be added in this. And then I'll be printing this df. So you can see this new attribute is a part of the data frame now. So instead of defining this method, there is inbuilt support also for this square root. For that, you have to import the math library, import math, and then you have to mention df of new. Okay, first, let's drop this new column from this d.draw. We want to draw new column as it's a column, so you have to mention access is equals to 1. Okay, and then you have to make use of in place is equals to true to delete it from data frame permanently from the main copy, and then display this. So now new attribute, new column is being drawn from the data frame. Instead of defining this method, it suppose inbuilt method also sqrt. For that, you have to import the math library, import math, df of the same thing. Instead of this root here, you have to mention math.sqrt. Previously, you had defined your own method. So you can define your own method and perform some operation, but this square root method is already supported. So you have to simply import this math module and provide this math.sqrt here. Apply this square root method for that value and then print that df. So you can see here the values are being printed here. The new column is added, and these values are nothing but the square root of the respective values of the petal length. 6.2 is the square root of 1.5, 1.5 is the square root of 1.4, and so on. Now, if you want to sort values of the data based on a specific column, so that you can do with the help of sort by values method. So let's say df dot sort underscore values. You want to sort them based on, let's say, sepal length. So if we'll sort them based on the sepal length, you can see the values are 4.3, 4.4. So it is sorted in ascending order. By default, it is sorted in ascending order. Now, if you want to sort them in descending order, for that you have to write ascending is equals to false. By default, ascending is true. But if you want the values, if you want the values to be sorted in the reverse order, descending order, then you have to specify here ascending is equals to false. Now you can see here the values are from largest to the lowest, 7.9, 7.7, and so on, and the last value is 4.3. So sorting can be done with the help of this sort underscore values method, and here you have to mention the name of the column based on which you want to sort them. After this, let's see, we'll see we want to determine what is the index number of the row for this petal length column where its value is minimum. Okay, you want to determine what is the index number of the row for which the value of this petal length is minimum. So for that, here you have to make use of idx min. So it is the index number is 22. It is basically returning you the minimum petal length. Wherever the value of the petal length would be minimum, its index value is written over here. Now let's say if you want to see what are the values of the rest of the attributes of the columns for the same minimum value. So you have to mention so previously it was returning this 22. So it will be starting from 0, 1, 2 till whenever it reaches 22, it will be giving you the information about that. The way we have seen df.alloc of some specific index which starts from the offset 0. So its rest of the columns information can be accessed by using the same thing. So that means you want to determine the value of sepal length, sepal width, petal length, and petal width, and its species also, where the value of petal length is minimum. Same way, instead of min, you can make use of max as well. So wherever the value of petal length would be maximum, wherever the value of petal length would be maximum, will give you the information for it will extract the information of the rest of the columns. So this is what information you're getting over here. So the maximum petal length is 4.9, and for that specific index number, it is accessing the rest of the attributes. So is this clear to everyone here? Is this part clear? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Class, let us move to the topic, next topic, that is the web scraping. So before starting this topic, let me tell you about few important things. First of all, web scraping. Am I audible, class? Okay, thank you. See, first of all, web scraping is something which is illegal, but it's like there are again some legalities involved. Something like, okay, there are certain websites where contents are like they will not have any problem even though you are scraping their website. Why? Because they want to share the information, and even though you are scraping, they are okay with it. Sometimes the information is private. For example, there is a, let's say there is a website of some star, and the star has uploaded photos on a website, and now you are scraping that website, is it? And then you are downloading the photos and all, and then you are using those photos for circulation, for your use, or for gaining the money. Then it is illegal. Why? Because that is their own property, and so on. Then it's like there is something called as web crawling. So web crawling is something which comes in the gray area. For example, it's like a Google, they crawl through all the websites, they extract the information, and then they use that information for indexing the websites. And when people are searching something on internet and they are getting this information, and they get a link on Google, like, okay, if you want this information, go to this page. And now they are okay with search engines going through those pages. Why? Because it is for their own interest. But again, they don't want everything to be crawled, or though they don't want everything to be scrapped also. So there is something called as robots.txt that we will see shortly. That what is that how to read that content. So in that file, they maintain the information like, okay, you are not supposed to crawl this also. Means even search engines are not supposed to crawl those pages. And if someone is crawling those pages, then it is illegal. And we know if you are crawling those pages, means what? Your log is available on their website. What do you mean log is available on the website? The log is available on the web server, that from where the requests come to this page and so on. So and it can be backtraced. So I know some of you might be right now thinking about, okay, sir, we will be using proxies and all, but if someone determines that, okay, I want to track the proxies also, then proxies can also be tracked. That's a different story. We'll not enter into that area. But things are like this. So just be cautious what you are crawling. You should not crawl, or you should not download something which does not belong to you, or you should not download something after which the owner of that content might take an legal action against you. The entire content that I'm going to teach you in this session and in next session, it is completely for learning and educational purpose. You are not supposed to do any illegal activity using this. So as promised, today we will learn how to download the images from websites and all. So make sure that you own those images, or it's like the person has no legal problems if you are using those images or something like that. So there are many libraries which are available for web crawling or web scraping. Web crawling and web scraping are two different things. You are crawling through the pages means what, you are growing to the content, you are using that content for your indexing references, something like that. But web scraping is a different thing. You are not supposed to download photos or something like that, which might create some technical issues in terms of cyber suit and cyber law. Okay. So a Beautiful Soap is also one of the libraries, which is a famous library and being used. And the second is Selenium. Initially, I'll start with Beautiful Soap. We'll tell you few limit problems with the Beautiful Soap, and then we'll move to Selenium. Selenium is mostly used for web automation, but since it is used for web automation, you can use it for web crawling also. So first check whether the Beautiful Soap is installed or not, and if not, we should install it. So pip, not a pip, install 4. So it will check. So okay, the requirement is already satisfied for me, but for you it might not be satisfied. So try this command. So if it is not installed, it will install this library. So I copied that command in our group, and to install Selenium, it is simple thing. And Selenium, right now there are many jobs available in Selenium for web automation testing and many other things. Web automation testing is one of the, it's like a good area for internships as well as jobs right now, where you can automate many things. So so let us start with this robot.txt file that you must be aware about, that which will tell you what you can crawl and what you cannot crawl, something like that. So to check that, we can simply say import url lib dot robot parser. So it simply says that, okay, this is something which you can use to parse the robots.txt file. It is a robots.txt file. So with small r, it is not robots.txt file, it is robots.txt file. And if any website don't want some pages to be crawled by search engine or anyone else, then they must mention that thing in robot.txt file. If robots.txt file is not present, or it is not mentioned in that file, then one can crawl those sites. Crawling the pages and downloading the pages are two different things. So if some search engine should not go to particular pages or particular areas of a website, it is mentioned in this robots.txt file. So let's create a parser object. It is equal to url lib dot robot parser dot robot file parse. So we'll create object of robot file parse, and then we'll set a URL, that's rp.set underscore URL, and here we can specify the path. So make sure that your path should start with HTTPS or HTTP, that is required. You cannot skip that. www.tutorialspoint.com followed by robots.txt. So website URL followed by robots.txt, that is a default path and it must be placed over there only. Now read that file rp.read, and if we want to print the content, it's simply rp and run. Okay, URL lib dot robot has not robot. I missed this R over here. So many typing mistakes. Yes. So now it says, okay, one should not go inside this assets folder, which is immediately followed by this tutorialspoint.com video folder. One should not go temp, logs, rate, store, CGI bin, programming examples. Then they do have video tutorials, video course view. So they are saying that, okay, you are not supposed to crawl all these things. And if you are crawling it, then it is illegal and they might take an action against you by saying that, okay, this thing is already mentioned in robots.txt file. So ensure that before crawling anything, you read this robots.txt file where they are mentioned, where you are not supposed to go. That is more important thing, that where you are not supposed to go. Where you are supposed to go, definitely you will go. So this is very important thing, robots.txt file. So class, any doubt in this robots.txt file? How to access the contents of robot.txt file, what it means and so on? No doubts class? Okay, good. Now let us check this robot.txt file for our college. So I'm pasting the contents. So, and if we want, what we can simply do is something like this. I'll type here xavier.xe.in, and here you can see there is no HTTP or www mentioned here. So I can simply copy the contents from here and I'll paste it over here. Delete, paste. So it will come up with this www.https and everything. And now let us check robots.txt file for our college. It's mentioned nothing, means they have not mentioned there is no robots.txt file which tells us where we should go or where we could not go. It's something like, okay, we can crawl anything that we want. I'm talking about crawling, not downloading. So we can crawl anything that we want, something like that. So this is the most important thing, robot.txt file. So let us go into then beautiful SOAP for fetching the contents from data. So from BS4, it's like a fourth version is beautiful SOAP. From BS4, we are supposed to import beautiful SOAP. Beautiful SOAP. And we'll import this URL lib. And after that, we are supposed to specify the URL from where we are supposed to, or it's a URL of page which we are supposed to crawl. So let's say https://www dot pythonforbeginners.com. Python for beginners.com, and let us say Now read that file. So content of that file is equal to url lib dot request dot url open, and to this we'll pass the URL that we want, URL, and after opening it, read it. So dot read. So open that page, or open the stream and read the content, and then get the contents. Let's say um text or file content something is equal to beautiful soup, and to that pass the content, and then let us print this text. So there is a problem. So what it says is something like this: HTTP error 403 forbidden. It means what? It is telling that okay, this page you cannot access that page, and it is permanently forbidden. It is permanently forbidden. And this error we get when we try to open that URL using this URL lib, using this URL lib. So what actually happened is everyone knows, everyone knows that URL lib is not a browser. It's a request so that one can get the text content and process that content. So they know whenever there's a request from URL lib, it is not a request from browser. This is a request from some program. So they might, it's something like that is forbidden. But instead of that, if we will go to something like this, let us say I'm requesting this Xavier website. So instead of Python for beginners, if I'm requesting Xavier website, so what happened? Content is not defined. Okay, thank you. So if I'll run this thing now, yes, the page is downloaded. So basically, if you are using Beautiful Soup, you will, along with URL lib, you will be able to access some pages, but you will not be able to access some of the pages because that access is blocked by the firewall present at server side. So the access is blocked by firewall present at server side. And if you want to avoid that okay, sometimes some pages you are able to access, some pages you are not able to access because of the firewall setting at server side, then simply avoid using this Beautiful Soup in combination with URL lib. If you want to avoid that, then simply leave it. So I guess now you know what's the problem. The major problem is the requests are blocked by firewall browser, and they will give you the error HTTP error 403, that is forbidden. If you can simply search this error on Google, something like this. Let's say if I'm writing HTTP 403 error, something like that, it will tell you the request to the resource is forbidden for some reason. And the reason here is we are not, the request is not from browser, it is from some other program, and firewall is configured for that. So since now we know this thing, let us move to Selenium. So whether Selenium can access this page or not, let us move and check whether the Selenium can access this page or not. So it's like from Selenium import web driver. So I have already told you that okay, Selenium in a group that okay, if you want to use this codes and run this code, then you should download one exe file. That file is nothing but a Chrome driver for accessing the or using the Selenium, and that is mandatory. You cannot skip that thing. And if you want to use Firefox, then you need to download the Selenium driver for Firefox. You simply type it on Google, and you will get the links for those things. It's not a big deal. and ensure that both the driver and your py file, or your driver and IPYNB file is in the same folder. I'm giving say a driver path. So driver path is equal to, it is in same folder, so there is no need to specify the entire path. I'll simply specify the file name, Chrome driver.exe. So this is the name of a exe file, and let's create a Selenium driver. So let us say driver is equal to web driver dot Chrome. So we are telling them, okay, we are going to use Chrome driver, and the path for that, or we are going to use a Chrome browser for accessing the pages, something like that. So first specify the path for that exe file, executable underscore path is equal to driver path. So now we are telling, okay, use Chrome browser for accessing the pages, and the path for the driver is, this is the path. And once it is given, we can simply use a method get method driver dot get, and to this method we can pass the URL that we want to open. So this is the URL, and let us run this thing. So if you can see, another window is open, and in that window that python for beginners.com is open. Now it is not blocked. Why? Because here the request is sent through Chrome browser. So there is a link between Chrome browser and our Python code, and that is a driver. So the request goes from code to driver, and from driver to browser, and according to that driver, browser sends a request to particular URL, and so on. And then contents goes to the browser, from browser it goes to driver, and through driver we can access that content, and we can access that content. So that driver acts as an intermediate thing between our code and okay, so students are saying can't see. Yes. So are you able to see now? Yes, class? Yes. So now you can see this python for beginners.com. This is open. Why? Because the request goes from our code to driver, from driver it goes to the browser, and from browser request is sent to this python for beginners.com. So now python for beginners.com, or the web server for python for beginners.com, knows that okay, the request is originated from browser, means it is a legit request, and we can serve it. The request is not from some console program. This is what is thought by this python for beginners.com. But if you're talking about, let us say, google.com or like Facebook and all, their web servers are more sophisticatedly maintained, and they knows that okay, the server request is from browser, but the browser is operated by some driver, so they knows this thing. But many websites they don't know, or their web servers are not that sophisticatedly maintained. But Google and all, they knows all these things. And since the request is sent through browser, request is served without any problem. I'm closing it. So class, any doubt in this thing? How the request is served here in this case, but not in previous case? Any doubt, class? And that's why normally I suggest that okay, if you want to go for a web crawling and all, one should go with Selenium instead of Beautiful Soup, so that there will not be any issue that particular website is not responding or particular web page is not responding that way. Yes, Ashwini, any doubt? Ashwini is taking a long time for typing, so there must be a very big doubt. So, sir, how to? Oh, okay, what is allowed by website or not? It's like you can go in robots.txt file and from robot. Ashwin is asking how to know what is allowed by or not. So it's like one thing is robot.txt file. It will tell you what you can crawl and what you cannot crawl. And second thing, at particular location in some website, they have mentioned that okay, if you are crawling or if you are downloading, it is illegal. So if you'll go to amazon.com, if you want to crawl it, you can crawl it, but it is illegal. They have mentioned somewhere in their website that crawling the Amazon website for reading the information, it is illegal. And now there is a debate. Okay, if it is reading is illegal, then why you are displaying it? Then they say that okay, reading by eyes it is legal, but reading through code and then using it for our their using it for commercial purpose is illegal. So let me tell you one example. Suppose let us say you opened some you started your online business, and now what you are doing, you are crawling the amazon.com, then grofers.com, you are calling, then you are calling Flipkart and everything, and then you are checking what is the minimum price offered by them, and now you are offering a price less than them. What is happening? You are crawling their website and then you are using their content to improve your business, which in result affecting their business. So they are saying if such thing is happening, then it is illegal. And this thing is complete gray area, means what is legal, what is not legal. Then there are suits like okay, if you don't want anyone else to read your information or use your information, then why you are putting it on a website or not? It's a big issue, it's a big mess. But yes, if they don't want you to go through something, it is either mentioned somewhere in their website. Where to mention, it's up to you, but they might mention it, and robots.txt file will tell you what you cannot crawl. So if you want to know, then simply read that robots.txt file. Okay, so code. So copy, paste. So we have to check using URL lib while using Selenium as well. Yes, Ashwini, you should first check that robot.txt file. If they have mentioned that okay, these are the pages or these are the folders which you are not supposed to crawl also, then you should not crawl it. So that's why I started with robot.txt file. That specifically tells you what not to go for. And in our website, there is no, our college website, there is no robot.txt file. So they have not mentioned what to crawl and what not to crawl. But yes, so we can crawl anything, but downloading it's again up to the college whether they want to take any action or not. So let's start with something that I promised, images. Today I'll start with today I'll complete images, and all other things like fetching the table data and so on, we'll try to cover it in next session. So copy and paste, and instead of this thing, I'll go with our Xavier College website. I hope so our college will not take any action against me. So I'm using our college website, xavier.ac.in. And then I'm creating a list, empty list. So in this list, I'm supposed to store the path for all the URLs, image URLs. I'll store path for all the image URLs. And here, then I'll check how many image tags are there. So anyone who knows HTML knows that img is a image tag. This img is a image tag, and in image tag there's an attribute called src. So src attribute contains the path for image. This src attribute, it contains the path for image, and img means it's the image tag. So I'm basically supposed to access the image tags. So how can I access the image tags? So let us say img underscore tags is equal to driver So now we know our driver is pointing to this website or web page, driver dot find underscore element by tag name. So there is by find element by tag name is there. So you can find the element by ID also. You can find the element by class also. You can find the element by CSS also. So there are a number of ways. So I want to find the element by tag, that is IMG tag I am interested in. And let us say this for IMG in IMG underscore tags. So when you will go for this driver dot find element by tag name IMG, what it will do, it will go to this. So when you will say driver dot get, it will go to this web page. It will fetch that web page, and now that web page is available in a browser. And now when you say find element by tag name IMG, it will look for all the IMG tags. It will look for all the IMG tags in a page. So there will be many IMG tags. There will be many IMG tags in our page. So this IMG underscore tags is not a single element. It's a list. This is a array which contains all the image tags present in our page. And that's why to access or to go through all the images, I'm going for IMG in IMG underscore tags. And now I should know what is the path for that image. What is the path for that image? So how to get the path? So that is IMG dot get underscore attribute. So in which attribute we are interested? That attribute is the source of an image. That attribute is what? Source of image. So it will tell us, okay, what is the source of image? What is the path for that image? And what I'm doing is images dot append. So I'm appending this source in a list. I'm appending this source in a list, and outside the for loop, I'm printing that list. So what we did over here is, okay, specify the driver path, and then we said, okay, webdriver.chrome. If you want to use Firefox, it will be webdriver.firefox. And in that, we are supposed to pass the path. We are supposed to pass the path, and then it's like a driver.get, specify the URL. And now we have created an empty list to store the paths of all the images present in that file. And then what we did is, okay, using this driver object, find element by tag name. So it will look for all the IMG tags in a open web page. It will look for all the IMG tags in the open web page, and all that tags information, all the tags information is stored in IMG underscore tags. And since there are multiple images, this is a list or this is a tuple, and we want to so since there are multiples, I'm using a for loop to go through every image one by one, to go through every image one by one. So it is a for IMG in image tags. So what I'm doing, from every image I'm getting the src attribute. So why we are getting src attribute? Because src attribute contains the path of that image. Src attribute contains the path of that image, and then we are appending that path in a images folder. So even in images a list, we are appending that path in a images list, and then we are simply printing that images. We are simply printing that images. So if I'm running this thing, let me start a new share. Yes, no, not this one. This one, sorry. So this is a new tab that is open. This is a new tab that is open. So you can see it's a xavier.ac.in, and this is something which normally opens as a front page. So this is open. Why? Because we give a request. So the request is gone through the server via our browser. So let me share our previous code. And now I did some mistake, I guess. So web element is not iterable. This should be elements. Find elements by ID, because there are multiple images. So my mistake, extremely sorry, I forgot that S. I don't want to find first image tag. I want to find all image tags. So it should be find elements by ID. So let me run it one more time, and new share. So this is the page C. Now you can see it's buffer, it's going on means pages yet loading. Pages yet get loading, and our remaining part, that for loop and all those codes will be executed only after this page is completely loaded. So basically, when you say driver.get, our code waits for entire page to be loaded, and once the entire page is loaded, then only our code execution begins. So let us move to our code, and now you can see it contains path of all the images. It contains path of all the images. So now I know the path of all the images. So if we want to display the path of every image, we can simply go for loop. Let's say for image in images, and let us simply print image. And now see, these are the paths of all the images which are present in on our page. These are the paths of all the images which are present in our page. Class, any doubt? Are you getting this thing now? Yes or no? So if you have any doubt, please post it in a group. And if you don't have any doubt, then please post so that you are getting all the things. Is there any point that I should repeat one more time, something like that? Okay, no doubt. Okay, so these are the images. These are the image paths, and you can see all the paths are complete paths, and so on. So now what is our next task is, we are supposed to fetch one of the image. We are supposed to fetch one of the image. So if you can download one image, we can download all the images. So how to download the image? So it's very simple. For that, we can use URL lib. We can use URL lib. So it's like, let us say import URL lib dot request as REQ. So we imported that, and then we're, let us say name is equal to images of name. So you can observe that all the image names, so these are names now, they are separated by slash. Am I right? They are separated by slash. So this is the image. These are the image names, or these are the image paths which are separated by slash. So what I'm doing is images of 2 dot split. So I'm splitting that part on slash, and let us print this thing, print name. So if I'll print name, so what is name? Name is an array now, or it is a list, and it's like HTTP is first element, this, and the last element in our list is image name. Last element in our list is image name. So if I want to save an image, I must save the image by image name. Now, if I want to save the image, I must save the image by image name. So where I will get an image name? So if I'll do something like this, name of -1. If I'll print name of -1, it will give the image name. So this is the name with which I am supposed to save the image. And how I'm get it? How can I get it? Name of -1. Split the path on slash and go for name of -1, and you will get the actual image name with which you are supposed to save the image. And now downloading the image is only a one line of code. Request dot URL retrieve. URL retrieve. RIEVE URL retrieve. So what is the URL? URL is, let us say, images of 2. I want to retrieve second image, and with which name I want to save it. I want to say, let us say there is a image folder or images folder. In this images folder, I want to save this image. And what is the name of image? It is the name of -1. So in images folder, I want to save this image, and the name is names of -1. So if you want to see the contents of our images folder, just for few seconds, I'll show you the contents of that folder. So class, can you see this images folder? Yes. The folder is empty now. Am I right? Yes, class. Can you see this images folder which is empty? Yes. This images folder is empty now. So I'll run this code now. So the code is getting executed right now. Yes, the code is completed because now this circle is not solid, and it says that okay, images in images folder, images -xi.jpg file is saved. So if I'll go here, so there is a admission -xi.jpg file, and if I'll click on it, the file is open. Class, can you see this file? Yes, class. Yes. So now it's like I can download one image. I can download one image. So if I can download one image, can I download all the images? Yes. If I can download one image, I can download all the images. So for that, I only need a for loop only. So I'm copy pasting this for loop from here, copy and paste. Then I'll need this import so that I'll have that request object. And this image, I know this image is the complete path, but to save this image is required, this entire path is required to retrieve the image. But for storing the image, I need some name. So I'm copy pasting these two things also. Split code. So now, and instead of image of 2, it will be image.split. So for image in images, so this image contains the image path. I'm splitting it on slash, and now name will contain entire array. And what I'm looking for is name of -1, which contains the actual name with which I want to save the image. Copy and paste. So req.url retrieve. Instead of images of 2, it will be retrieve this image, that is a path. req.url retrieve this image and store that image in images folder with a particular name. And just to know which image is currently being retrieved, I am printing this name so that I will come to know which image is currently being retrieved. So how many lines of code it is? 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Along with that, these many lines of code just to fetch the images name. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 8 plus 5, 13 lines of code to save or to download all the images from one of the pages. So if I'm running it, so yes, so it is retrieving the images. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. The images are getting retrieved. And if I'll see here, you can see all the images are getting downloaded, and every image is having a different size. 664 KB, the 17.jpg is 1.03 MB, and so on. So we can see all these things. So code is getting executed and images are getting downloaded. So any doubt, class, in this thing? And for your reference, I'm copy pasting the codes also. The code for getting the image list, and second code for if you want to know only the paths for those images, and this is a code to download a particular image if you know the path. And finally this code where you can go through these things. So code, is it completed? No, it's still going on. It is downloading the images. It might take some time, but please be careful if you are using mobile data to download the image or all. It should not happen that your data is completed within 1 hour or something like that, because with 4G speed, you might end up your entire data within few, it's like within an hour or something like that. So yes, now all the images are downloaded now. And now there is a problem. See, some images are PNG images, some images are JPG image, and so on. So we can see all the images which are available over here. So this 14.jpg image. So images of some students working in a lab. So good. Students are working in a lab. Then this 3.jpg, this is some image or something like that. 12.jpg, again the image of a lab. So basically, this is how you can download all the images present on a particular web page, something like that. So class, any doubt, class? Okay, few students have left the session. Are they trying this class? Are you getting the concepts now? So there are certain things like, okay, after posting the code, few students have left the class. So might they want to try this code on their own or something like that. File not found error, no such directory. Beta, you need to create that images directory in your home folder. So if I'll go to my home folder, there I have created this images directory. If you do, if you'll click on this new, there is the option for folder. If you'll click on this folder, you will see there untitled folder. Check this folder, and now there's the option for rename. So you can give any name to this folder. So now you can download those images in this folder. Someone is asking, can you create a folder structure? Yes, beta, you can create a folder structure and then you can give path accordingly. That is okay. For example, let's say instead of using this images folder, you want me like let us say this is your attendance or something like, or let's say in D drive there is a, I want to create a folder called images, and I want to store the images in D drive. So it's like if I'm doing something like this, then the images are getting downloaded. And let me share this screen also. New share, where is that folder? So can you see this folder? This is the D drive folder in images, and images are getting downloaded. And if images are getting downloaded in a particular folder specified by you, you can create a folder structure also. We have already seen the code now to create the folders and all. So you can create a folder structure also without any problem. So Henry, I guess I answered your query. Yes, yes, you have to upload that .exe file in that where on a home screen, or you specify the path. Simply right click on that file, get a path and specify the path. So in after that it will work. So class, any doubt in this thing? How many of you are right now crawling or downloading the images? Can anyone share what they have downloaded or what he or she have downloaded? Okay, so Shantanu Tripathi is downloading. Shantanu, would you like to share the screen, or would you like to share what you have downloaded? So if you would like to share what you have downloaded, then I can give a share rights. Okay, so you are watching a lecture on your mobile and you are trying your codes on a laptop. Okay, good. Class, this is not yet done. There is yet to be added to this code, and that is more important part. That you are not supposed to crawl one page. You are supposed to crawl entire website. Am I right? So crawling one page and crawling entire website is two different things. If you crawling entire website means what? Go to the first web page and then look for all the links. Go to the first web page, then look for all the links, and then crawl those links also, and then crawl those links also. That is more important thing. So how can you do that? Crawling all the pages which are available on your website. It's very easy. For that, basically you need to look for his links. So can anyone suggest me how can I do that? If I want to crawl the entire website, then okay, no clue, no issues. Let me tell you. So here I'm opening this xavier.ac.in. So class, is this page visible? That page of our xavier.ac.in? Yes. Yes, this is visible. So initially we can directly right click on this thing and we can go for this view page source. We can go to this view page source, and here if you look something like this, so there are links for principal, director, message. So these anchor tags are inside li tags. These anchor tags are inside. So there is a doubt from Shantanu. Sir, Shantanu, if something is mentioned inside robot.txt, you are not supposed to crawl also. You are not supposed to crawl also. They say that this is our private information for our own use. You are not supposed to crawl it. That might be for only authorized persons, not for entire world. And since it is not for entire world, a program is not supposed to crawl it. I hope Shantanu I have answered your doubt. Okay. So here some anchor tags are inside li tag. So the basically drop down links for this thing are inside li tag. Then academic year calendar and everything is inside li tag. Am I right? Courses and this computer engineering.php and everything. This is inside li tag. And there are certain things which are inside h3 tags. So there are few href links which are there inside h3 tags also. So if you want certain links to access, so we know that links are inside li tag. Links, anchor links are inside the li tags. Then how can we do that thing? The code is very simple. Okay, let me copy paste some code. And the code is basically same. I'm just modifying things bit here and there. So so here find elements by tag name, and instead of img tag, what I'm doing is li space a. Means what? Inside li tag there is a tag. So I want only those anchor tags which are inside li tag. I want only those anchor tags which are inside li tags. And instead of images, I'm mentioning it as links. Instead of image images. It is a links list now, and let it be a tags, because these are our a tags. So now my for loop will change something like this. We can say for a in a underscore tags, and now this code, same thing. What we are supposed to do is a dot get attribute, but which attribute we are interested in. So if we'll go through this, okay, sorry. If you'll go through this a tag, there is a href attribute. There is a href attribute which contains the path for file. There is a href attribute which contains the path. So href is the attribute that we are interested in. So this is the attribute, href attribute, in which we are interested, and it's like a images dot append src. And now, sorry, not images. It should be a underscore. It should be links dot append. Links dot append, and what we are supposed to append is href. So we are getting all the tags, anchor tags which are inside li tag. We are getting the href attribute, and let us print it over here. Print links. So the page is open, and the entire cell is working. So now it is like page is getting loaded. Our website, okay, it takes some time to for loading, because there are heavy images on our website. Like certain images are like of 1 MB and something like that. So the images are very bulky in size. That's why it is taking some more time. So I'm just waiting for this loading to get over. Once this loading is over, yes, the loading is over now. Go to our code. So what it is saying that, okay, Chrome not reachable, something like that. For href, let us print our links, whether there is something in this or not. I guess I should have not have closed that thing. Let me run this code one more time. It is saying that it's not linking. It's getting loaded. I have to wait for just this page loading to get over. So this is the most boring part, that you have to wait for this page loading to get over. And print this links. I don't know what wrong I am doing over here. Just give me a few seconds. I will identify the error. What's wrong in this case? This is my, so I'm setting attribute. IMG. Thank you, Shantanu. So that is a very basic mistake when we do when we are going for copy pasting. It should be a dot get attribute, not img dot get attribute. So yes, the page is getting loaded, and I'm waiting for that thing to so page loading. I think our server should not ban me for sending so much requests, because from my machine now there are many requests for our college server. No? Now if I'll run this thing, okay, style element reference exception. We can eliminate this thing. We'll see that thing in next session, how to eliminate that. And now see, these are the links. So can you imagine how many links are there in our page? There are n number of links in our page. And certain links are like xavier.se.in hash, xavier.se.in hash. These links are repeated links. These links are, and there are certain links which are none also. But these are the links in our page. But certain links are repeated links. So how to avoid that repeated links? So what we can do is something like this. Class, are you with me till now? Yes, class. Okay. Thank you, Vinod. So Vinod Bhatt is someone who is always first to connect. So the moment I start a session, Vinod Bhatt is always here. It doesn't matter what session it is. Vinod, I guess you are in Java session also, no? So you are the first one to connect in Java session also. It's good. It's like you are always here. Yes, Vinod, you are always ready. So, so these are the links, but certain links are repeated. For example, we can see that there is a xavier.se.in hash. There is again xavier.se.in hash, means links are repeated. We don't want repeated links. So what we can do is something like this. Let us say unique links is equal to set links, and let us print this thing length of unique links and length of links also. So let's see, there are only 82 unique links and 180 links are there, means certain links are repeated. Certain links are repeated. So now if I'll print this thing, print unique. So now you can see that links are not repeated, and there is none also. None is also not there in link. So here there is none, 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 none. It is not there. So why we should do this step? We should do this step because we should not see, if you want to download all the images from a website, then what you should know is, should you download images from one page twice or thrice or many times? No, you should not do it. If you have downloaded it once, it is okay. So you should not visit that page one more time. So we can do that thing using this set method. To this set method, we are supposed to pass our links, and it will return only unique links. So I'm storing that in a unique object, and now we know there are only 82 unique links out of 180, means so many links are repeated links. And if I'm printing it, you can go get all these things. So and now you can crawl these pages one by one. Now you can crawl these pages one by one. So class, that's it for today. That how can you do all these things and all. In next session, we will see how can you crawl all the images from entire website. So this is for just right now. Okay, how can you crawl one page? Next time you will go, how can you crawl entire website looking for particular content, how to extract the tabular content from the website. Image is not the only part which you should scrap, which you should retrieve from the website. There are many other things that you can retrieve from the website, like information present in tabular format. Let's say on a particular web page there is information about product, and you want what is the product price and what are the features. You should be able to extract it, no? So that way you can do it. How to do it for one page, how to do it for entire website, that will look in next session. So class, any doubt till now? Yes, Vinod, you are always ready to learn something new. Good. So I'm stopping this recording.